Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Luna Nozawa stared at the small bundle in her arms. The child's weight seemed both familiar and utterly frail. She hugged the baby closer, inhaling the newborn scent, and allowed herself to pretend life had changed. There would be laughter in the morning, soft lullabies, and hope. But she realized that hope had its limitations. Luna's life changed the minute she found out she was going to be a mother. The surprise, fear, and thrill all blended into something primal and unexplored. She was surrounded by walls and haunted by past misdeeds. Her relationships and reputation were delicate. She understood she had no right to live a regular life. Nonetheless, there she was, her child breathing quietly on her chest, and she felt a fierce love she had never known. But beneath the affection lay shame and terror. She reflected on how everything had gone wrong. The secret disclosed, the charges, and the arrest. She was aware that people questioned her, including her father, her once hopeful allies, and even the man who had been identified as the father, Will Spencer. He viewed her as a mistake. Perhaps more than a mistake. A mess. And now a baby is the result of a mess. She made a decision in that pale room. She would protect her child. She would build a house for them, even if the world refused to believe she deserved it. When the guards arrived later that night, she did not cry. She did not argue. She looked to have followed their instructions. She faded away in the pandemonium that followed birth, surrounded by medical personnel, beeping machines, and tiredness. She strolled along halls, clutching the infant and shrouded in a light blanket, unconscious of the faces that flickered past. She pressed a key, and it clicked open. She went outside into the chilly night. The city lights twinkled like indifferent stars, and she clutched the infant tightly. Luna wasn't sure where she was headed. The only way out was to avoid the judgment and glares. She walked till the hospital was behind her. She kept going till the voices behind her faded into the background. She got a room in a modest motel on the outskirts of town using a fictitious identity. She changed the baby's bedding, removed his medical wristband, and gave him a new name, Isabella. It was simple and beautiful, something she could mutter in the dark while feeling safe. She remained hidden. For days, she viewed the world through shades, a small creature sleeping in her arms. She changed diapers at midnight. She performed delicate melodies that she made up on the fly. She rocked Isabella, pressing her cheek against the infant's soft head. But the guilt ate away at her. She realized she had abducted more than just a kid. She had taken a future that someone else believed was theirs. Will, his family, the Spencer name, she had taken something from them. In the silent hours, she reasoned with herself that perhaps they had also taken something from her. But it didn't make things right. One evening, the door to the motel room rattled. A knock. Luna froze. Isabella moved in her arms. The knock came again. She held her breath. She said to her kid, "Stay with me, my light." The door opened. Two detectives stood there, their badges glinting. They discussed custody, of legal papers, of looking for a child. Luna sat still. Her heart pounded. She drew Isabella closer for protection. One detective inquired whether she was Luna Nozawa. The other claimed they were told to locate the baby born to her and Will Spencer. They stepped forward. Luna made a choice. She stood. She hugged Isabella closely. Her voice was calm, yet terrified. "You'll have to take me too," she said. The investigators glanced at the youngster and said, "This one is mine." They glanced at Luna. One said softly, "We just want what's best for the baby." "What's best for my baby," Luna said, her voice cracking, "is me." They exited the room with many questions, and Luna slammed the door behind them. She sat down on the bed. Isabella eased her arms around her. Luna closed her eyes and grieved, not for the world or her mistakes, but for the uncertain and raw future that lied ahead of her. Days have gone. The word spread. The media learned of the disappearance. The Spencer family gathered, indignant and terrified. Bill Spencer yelled in outrage. Katie Logan asked for calmness. The custody battle loomed enormous, including lawyers, court orders, and grief. Luna saw it all from the shadows, embracing Isabella in a rented room, unsure where to go next. On one of those nights, she had a visitor. An elderly woman, kind and quiet, knocked softly and slipped inside. It was Lee Finnegan, the woman who had believed in her when no one else did. Lee arrived with a brown paper bag containing diapers, baby clothes, and wipes, a quiet acknowledgement that Luna was trying. "You don't have to do this alone," Lee explained calmly. Luna nodded. She stared at Isabella, who was asleep in her arms. She wondered if she would tell her child 3 years from now the story of how she fled the hospital as a terrified mother, lived in fear, and fought for her. She wasn't sure if Isabella would understand. She wasn't sure whether the world would accept them. But she knew one thing. She adored her child. And in that love, she discovered a strength she didn't know existed. Under cover of darkness, the reporters approached her motel. Luna closed the drapes and murmured to Isabella, "Mommy's got you." In the morning, she led them outside. The world was still spinning. The babies were still crying. The city was still moving. But, for a little moment, Luna allowed herself to imagine a different life. One in which she could be a mother and Isabella could be protected. One where she didn't have to hide indefinitely. When the door opened again, this time with a knock from the lawyer representing Will Spencer and his family, Luna stood up. She cradled Isabella. She opened the door. Luna just stated, "I'm ready." In the proceedings that followed, Luna's gaze never left her kid. She listened to debates about stability, family heritage, riches, and lineage. She learned that Will Spencer had been verified as the father. She learned how the Spencer surname played a part in detention. She sensed the gallery's judgments and whispers. But she also felt resolution. When her lawyer questioned how she loved her child, Luna said clearly, "Because they are mine. Because no one else was present when they breathed their first breath except me." She stared at Isabella and felt the pulse of life, the future, and the optimism she dared to maintain. Weeks later, the court issued a conclusion that astonished many. Luna was given supervised custody. She agreed to live under house arrest, wear monitoring, and attend therapy. However, she could raise her child. The Spencer family expressed their concerns. Luna nodded solemnly, well aware of the second chance she had been given. Luna snuggled Isabella into bed as the night fell silent. She sat beside her and said, "You changed everything." She recalled the tears and the nights of fear. She recalled how the world had told her she didn't deserve this. She wouldn't believe it now. Outside, the city lights shone. A new day was approaching. Luna Nozawa hugged her infant, holding on to the promise that, while the past could not be changed, the future could be written. And she'd write it in lullabies and diaper changes, whispered, "I love yous," and first steps. For the two of them. Because sometimes the best rescue is not from someone else, but from yourself. Luna grew up in a small village where everyone knew each other's secrets, or so they thought. She was the girl with a bright smile and wider goals than the horizon, constantly sketching designs for clothes she hoped to see on runways. Her life had been easy until she relocated to the city to pursue her dreams at Forrester Creations, a prestigious design firm. It was there that she met Will, a dynamic designer with a sharp wit and a smile that could bring anyone down. Their bond was instant, resulting in late-night talks, shared designs, and stolen kisses in the design studio. For a while, Luna thought she had found her forever. But everlasting was a precarious concept. Enter RJ, Will's best buddy and rising star at Forrester. RJ was unique, quiet, thoughtful, with eyes that appeared to see right through her. He was the one who listened when Luna talked about her concerns, dreams, and past. After a tense argument with Will about his growing distance, Luna found refuge in RJ's arms. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness caused by hurt and misunderstanding, yet it occurred. A single night transformed everything. Luna found she was pregnant some weeks later. The delight of carrying a kid was eclipsed by the fear of unknown. Was the baby Will's, The man she loved despite their turbulent relationship? Or was it RJ, her friend who had been there for her when she felt most alone? She couldn't bear to tell either of them just yet. The truth seemed like a razor, sharp enough to break through the frail links she shared with both men. We'll observe a shift in Luna almost immediately. She was quieter, her laughing less frequent, and her gaze more remote. He imagined it was the stress of work, the pressure of their most recent collection. But when he noticed her clutching her stomach one morning, her face pale and trembling, he knew something was wrong. "Luna, talk to me," he murmured, his voice calm, yet forceful. She dismissed it, citing exhaustion, but Will was not convinced. He began checking in more frequently, giving her coffee and staying after meetings to ensure she was okay. His care was a salve for her wounded heart, but it also increased her guilt. How could she give him the truth if she didn't know it herself? RJ, too, realized something was wrong. He'd always been sensitive to Luna's emotions, probably more than Will was. He watched how she avoided his sight and reflexively laid her hand on her stomach when she thought no one was looking. He addressed her one evening while they were working late on a project. "Luna, what's happening? You're not yourself." His voice was soft, yet there was a hint of panic in it, like if she was slipping away. Luna's throat clenched. She wanted to disclose everything. The night they spent together, the baby, her confusion, but the words would not come. Instead, she stammered an excuse before leaving, her heart hammering. Luna's pregnancy became increasingly obvious as the weeks passed. The muttering began softly at Forrester and gradually became louder. Colleagues speculated, their gaze moving between Luna, Will, and RJ. The tension between the three of them became excruciating. Will, ever careful, grew increasingly possessive, insisting on driving Luna to doctor's appointments and hovering over her like a guardian. RJ, on the other hand, maintained his distance, but his eyes conveyed his longing, sadness, and questioning. Luna felt like she was drowning, trapped between two guys who each meant something to her, but neither knew the whole truth. The breaking point occurred one stormy afternoon. Luna was at the hospital for a normal checkup when Will and RJ showed up unexpectedly, their features etched with concern. The waiting room was small, and the air was filled with unspoken words. Will broke the silence first. "Luna, why didn't you inform me about your pregnancy?" His voice was rough, full of hurt and hatred. Before she could react, RJ came forward, his jaw tightening. "Is it mine?" he inquired, his words piercing through the room like a knife. Luna froze. The reality, which she had avoided for months, was suddenly unavoidable. Tears welled up in her eyes as she stared at the two guys, both of whom she cared for in different ways. "I don't know," she said quietly, her voice barely audible. The admission hung in the air, thick and choking. Will's face collapsed as his hands balled into fists. RJ turned away, his shoulders slumped as if the weight of her words had crushed him. The days that followed were a haze of anguish and stillness. Will ordered a paternity test, shattering his trust in Luna. RJ consented, but his reluctance was obvious. He didn't want to know the truth if it meant losing her. Luna felt like a spectator in her own life, while the men she loved fought over a kid whose paternity remained unknown. The test was planned for the day following her next ultrasound, which Luna dreaded. Not because of the operation, but because of what it would imply. One of them would become the father, while the other would be left with nothing. The ultrasound appointment was rather calm, save for the constant thud of the baby's heartbeat filling the room. Luna lay on the examination table, her gaze riveted on the screen as her child's tiny body moved, oblivious to the pandemonium outside. Will stood next her, his hand lightly resting on her shoulder, a gesture that was both comforting and possessive. RJ waited outside, unable to handle the intimacy of the situation. The doctor spoke calmly, outlining the baby's growth, but Luna barely heard her. Her thoughts were elsewhere, lost in the what-ifs and maybes. When the paternity test results came back, Luna insisted on reading them alone first. She sat in her flat, holding the envelope with shaky hands. The rain had ceased, but the air remained heavy, and the world outside was gray. She ripped open the envelope, her heart racing as she examined the page. The name looked back at her, bold and definitive.
Will.
The baby was Will's. Relief came over her, but it was temporary. The truth meant losing RJ, the man who saw her at her most vulnerable and yet loved her. It meant Will expected her to rebuild what they had, even though trust had been broken. It meant her child would grow up in a world where loyalties were divided and love was contingent on certain conditions. Luna met Will initially. He was waiting at their favorite cafe, his face a mix of optimism and dread. When she informed him, his face brightened up and he reached out for her hand.
We can do it, Luna.
We'll be a family. His words were sincere, but they didn't touch her heart. She nodded, trying to grin, but inside she was breaking. She remembered RJ, the calm moments they'd spent, and how he'd looked at her as if she were enough, even when she was at her lowest. Telling RJ was harder. They met at the park, under the same oak tree where they had previously spent hours talking about everything and nothing. His expression was unreadable as she talked, her voice shaking. He remained silent for quite some time after she had finished. Finally, he glanced at her, his eyes watering. I would have loved that kid like my own, he continued, his voice quivering. Then he went away, leaving Luna alone under the tree, the weight of her decisions bearing down on her. In the weeks that followed, Luna attempted to rebuild her life with Will. He was attentive, discussing baby names and nursery colors. But there was something missing. The spark that had previously marked them was vanished, replaced by a cautious distancing. Luna couldn't shake the idea that she was living someone else's life and playing a role she wasn't sure she liked. On a crisp November morning, the newborn girl arrived, her eyes wide and her cry sweet. Luna named her Hope, expressing a gentle desire for a better future. Luna was terrified by the affection she felt when holding her daughter. Hope was hers, regardless of who her father was or what she had lost. But as she glanced at Will, gazing down at their daughter, Luna realized the truth. Love was insufficient to repair what had been broken. RJ brought a gift, a little frock, hand-stitched with care, remembrance of the hopes they once shared. Luna stored it in a box since she couldn't bring herself to let Hope wear it. It was a symbol of what could have been, a life where decisions did not come at such high costs. Luna reared Hope with all of her love over the years, putting her heart into each moment. Will was a good father, but their relationship never really recovered. They coexisted, united by their daughter, but divided by their past. RJ moved on, pursuing his own path, but his absence remained in Luna's heart, a silent aching that never went away. Hope developed into a bright, curious kid, influenced by her mother's smile and her father's tenacity. She inquired about her relatives, including the man who occasionally sent her birthday cards from far away. Luna responded as best she could, crafting lies to soften the truth. But late at night, when the world was silent, Luna would sit by Hope's bedside, watching her sleep and wondering if she'd made the right decision. The paternity test had given her an answer, but it had not brought her peace. Life went on, as it always does. Luna's designs acquired popularity, and her name appeared in fashion journals alongside Forrester's. She smiled for the cameras, playing the role of the successful designer and caring mother. But in the quiet moments, when no one was watching, she felt the weight of what she had lost. Will, RJ, and the version of herself who believed in love's power to conquer all were ghosts now, haunting the margins of her existence. The rain continued to fall at intervals, but it was gentler now, like a whisper from the past. Luna would stand by her window, watching the drops fall down the glass, remembering how everything changed that night. She never regretted Hope, but she couldn't help but wonder what might have been if she'd chosen differently, been bolder, and held on to the pieces of herself she'd let go. Luna's story was ultimately one of survival, rather than success or tragedy. She loved her daughter deeply, carried her anguish silently, and continued to go forward one step at a time. The question of paternity had been resolved, but the questions of her heart remained unresolved, lingering in the gaps between what was and what may have been.